In our final video of this section, which is entitled Monster Profiling, The Scary Details, we will take some of the skills we learned in previous videos in order to upgrade our profile page. We will add a URL rule to make our page easier to link to. Then, we'll add a profile photo and incorporate the Lightbox plugin that we installed in video 2 of this section. Next, we'll do a little tidying up in the user information section. Finally, we'll make sure that the edit and delete buttons don't appear when viewing someone else's profile. Let's jump right in and add that custom profile URL rule. Open up the main application configuration file and scroll down to the URL Manager component configuration. We'll add a rule much like the one we did for the register page. However, this time we need to keep in mind that the view action of the monster controller, which we'll use as a basis for our profile page, takes an ID parameter to determine which model it should load. In order to preserve this functionality, we need to use a regular expression to tell the URL Manager component the name of our parameter, as well as what format to expect. Start with the name of the parameter, followed by a colon, and then add a regular expression to tell YII to expect one or more numerical characters. Save the file and open the monster listing page. If you look in the bottom corner of our browser, you'll see that the URL has already been updated when you roll the mouse over the eyeball icon. Click on the eyeball icon, and you'll see that our URL format has changed. Next up, we'll go ahead and add a profile photo. For now, we're just going to create a photos directory in the web root and copy our photos directly there. We went ahead and added a photo for Frankenstein, as well as a default image for the rest of our monsters who haven't supplied us with a profile photo yet. Open up the monster model class and create a getPhotoInfo method. This method will return an array with the photo source location and alt tag text. If a photo exists with the monster's name, its file name will be provided as the URL value of our return array. Otherwise, a default image will be loaded. Don't forget to add a use statement for the URL helper. Now, we'll open up our view and output the photo. But before we do, we'll update the H1 a little bit just to make it look like it's a real dating site. Next, create a photoinfo variable and assign it to the photoinfo attribute of the monster model. Remember, YII will use a magic getter method to return the contents of the getPhotoInfo method. Now, we'll create a second variable called photo and create an image tag using the HTML helper. We'll explain why in a minute. Create a figure tag under the main heading. Use the HTML helper's A method to generate a link tag. The content of the tag will be our photo variable from the previous step. We could have simply made the call to the image method here, but for readability we put it in the top in the opening PHP block. The second parameter is the URL, which was provided by our photoinfo variable. The third parameter is an array of additional attributes for our link tag. We'll add two, data lightbox and data title. These two attributes will be used to activate the lightbox with a larger version of our profile photo when the link is clicked. Just for clarity's sake, we'll add a little fig caption that lets everyone know that they can click the photo to view a larger image. To finish it off, we'll open up the site.css file to restrict the max width of the thumbnail image, as well as create a little bit of space between the image and fig caption. Save everything and click on the view icon next to Frankenstein. You'll see his spiffy new photo show up. Clicking on it opens a lightbox with a larger version. If we go back and look at Dracula's page, we'll actually see that the default avatar shows up, because there isn't a file named dracula.jpg in the photos directory. Our next step is to clean up the profile information section. We'll move the buttons below the profile table for a moment. Let's add a secondary heading so that everyone is clear that this is the profile information section of the page. Next, remove ID, username, password, and auth key columns, as our monsters won't find these very helpful in their search for true love. It's also hard not to notice that the gender information is a little sparse. Let's create another virtual attribute in our monster model to output something a bit more informative. Simply add a public method called getProfileGender and return bachelor if gender equals M and bachelorette if it equals F. Switch back to the list view and switch the gender column to profile gender. Reload the page, and you'll see that our profile information is now in better shape. The last thing we'll do in this section is clean up the update and delete buttons a bit. First, update the text on them just a hair, just to make them look like they belong on a real dating site. Next, these buttons should really only appear if the monster viewing this profile actually owns it. Since we already coded the permission to check if a monster owns a profile, it's simply a matter of adding a call to the can method of the application user object. If you remember from the video on RBAC, the permission name is updateMonster, and we have to pass it an array with an index of user and a value of the user object of the profile we're currently viewing. That object is contained in the model variable. Because we're not currently logged in, go ahead and view one of the profile pages, and you'll see that the buttons are gone. Now, log in as Frankenstein, view his profile page, and you'll see that the buttons magically appear. We've learned a lot so far throughout this course, and we were able to apply a lot of our newfound knowledge in creating a better profile page for our monsters. We started with the default view action generated by YII, changed the URL, added a profile photo complete with Lightbox, spruced up the profile information section, and made the profile edit button show up where appropriate. Earlier in the section, we learned how to edit common UI elements through our application using layouts. We also learned how to install and manage front-end packages with the Asset Manager component. Afterwards, we learned how to work with YII's HTML helper class. Coming up, we'll learn how to create a better search function for our monsters in order to allow them to find the perfect match.